We all feel it, don't we?
Yeah.
That sort of low-grade, constant hum of anxiety, it makes modern life feel, well, heavy.
Yeah.
Whether it's, global turbulence or just the pressures of a busy week. How often have you felt mentally cornered, stuck?
Like you've forgotten something vital.
Exactly.
That feeling of being harassed by tensions and fears, as our source material puts it today, that's really what we're digging into.
Okay.
We're taking a deep dive into the philosophy of Sant Mat, which offers a very clear path, you could say.
A path towards what, specifically?
Towards achieving complete spiritual balance and ultimately genuine fearlessness.
Okay, so our goal here is to unpack these fascinating texts. We want to understand, first, how fear really gets a grip on our focus.
Right.
Second, what this philosophy sees as the root cause of our suffering, and they link that very firmly to karma.
The law of cause and effect.
And finally, the specific practical tool they offer, which is meditation, to actually become fearless, completely balanced.
And what's really striking, I think, is how this philosophy tackles these huge spiritual questions. It's not with dense academic theory, but with these stunningly simple, everyday analogies.
They just click, don't they?
They really do. So let's start with that core problem. Misplaced attention.
And the most powerful image they use for that is the toddler. A toddler learning to walk.
Ah, yes.
If you just picture that scene, you know exactly what they mean.
Yeah, when a child first starts walking, their whole world is, well, it's wobblies, isn't it?
Definitely.
But the philosophy points out something crucial. When that toddler's attention is completely fixed on their father, the point of safety, the goal just ahead,
Yeah.
they're described as being relaxed, in perfect balance. Their steps might be shaky physically, but their inner state is secure.
Right. Okay. And what happens the instant that toddler shifts their gaze? The second they look down at their own feet?
Their wobbly legs.
Yes. They're focusing on the struggle itself, the self-doubt, the possibility of falling.
And boom.
That shift in attention immediately makes them lose their footing. They fall. It's like a physical law triggered by a mental switch.
That's the key insight. The texts are suggesting our attention is a spiritual mechanism. We are essentially spiritual babies learning to walk on the path.
Okay.
So when we keep our focus, our attention fixed on the Master or the Lord, however you conceive of that higher point.
We do tap into that complete balance.
Exactly. Because we stop being defined by all the chaos outside, we become, as the source says, oblivious to the happenings around us.
So the fear that grips us, it's not just an emotion. It's really a symptom of focusing inward on ourselves, on our weaknesses, our problems.
Focusing on our sorry state, as they put it, that's when we fall to pieces.
Yeah.
The physics of walking becomes the physics of faith, or focus, really.
Wow.
Now, if we scale that metaphor up to all of humanity, the philosophy says we are collectively suffering from the same misplaced focus. Mankind is described as being hypnotized by the world.
Hypnotized.
Yeah, totally engrossed in temporary worries, immediate fears, just lost in the noise.
We get so consumed by time, don't we? The deadline, the regret, worrying about what's next.
The TikTok, yeah.
That we've completely forgotten eternity. The texts ask us to think about, what are we really beneath all those fleeting thoughts?
Our true essence, they call it. That which is beyond thought and form. And that obsession with the temporary, the fleeting, that leads directly to crippling fear.
How so?
Well, the texts use another powerful image, the deer caught in the headlights.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
The danger is obvious, the way safety is right there, just run. But the animal freezes. It's paralyzed by the very thing it should escape.
We do that all the time.
Right.
Intellectual, we know worrying doesn't fix anything, but we do it anyway.
Right.
We let the fear of flying or dying or illness or just plain suffering. We let that dominate how we live.
Fear takes the wheel.
Yeah. And while the pain we feel is definitely real in the moment, the texts have a pretty uncompromising take on where it comes from.
They state very clearly that this suffering is ultimately of our own making.
Our own making. That's tough to hear sometimes.
It is, and this is where the concept of karma comes in. It's presented as the fundamental reason for our current situation, like a universal accounting system.
Okay, so it's not random bad luck.
Not according to this view. It asserts that our destiny, the circumstances we face, the good and the bad, are the direct result of our past karmas, our past actions.
We take this specific birth, this life.
Precisely to reap the results of those karmas, to settle the accounts, essentially.
So suffering isn't arbitrary punishment, it's consequence.
It's a settling of accounts, yes. And realizing this often leads to the next big question, one the philosophy anticipates.
Which is?
If the challenges are so hard, and if there's a divine presence, a master, a lord, why does it feel like he forsakes us? Right when things are at their worst.
Yeah, where's the help then?
The answer the texts give is, well, it's both deeply comforting and quite demanding.
How so?
They clarify that the master, or the Lord, is always there with us. Always.
Okay.
If we don't feel that presence, it's a sign of our own lacking and failing. Meaning, we aren't receptive. Our attention has wandered off again.
So it's on us. His grace hasn't been withdrawn. We've just tuned out.
Exactly. And the analogy they use for this constant support is beautiful. Divine grace is compared to a bountiful spring of water.
A spring.
It's ever-flowing, always available to quench the soul's thirst. The spring itself never runs dry.
But if our hearts are closed off or distracted,
The thirst remains. We can stand right next to it and still feel parched.
so it requires receptivity, openness from our side.
Absolutely. And we read that Maharaj Charan Singh really emphasized this. He explained that the master is looking at every single one of us on the inside all the time.
Wow. All the time. That's intimate.
It suggests it's not just passive observation, it's an active internal connection, constant support.
And knowing that certainty of inner support, that's the foundation for dealing with the karma we have to face.
Precisely. The master's role, according to these texts, isn't necessarily to just wave a magic wand and erase the karmas, because they have to be faced, settled.
Right. The accounts need balancing.
But his role is to provide the support so that we don't lose our mental balance while we're going through it, while we endure the payment.
It's like the difference between being tossed around in a huge storm alone versus having a really strong anchor and an experienced captain guiding the ship.
That's a great way to put it. The guidance is go through whatever karmas come your way, good or bad.
Just accept them.
Accept them, taking them as the will of the Father, as part of the necessary process.
But that takes enormous faith.
It does. And the texts are very clear on this point. To achieve that level of acceptance, to live in God's will without falling apart while paying off those old debts, it requires love and devotion for the Father.
Without that emotional, spiritual anchor.
They say it's simply not possible.
Yeah.
That devotion is the anchor.
So the devotion itself becomes the protective shield.
Yes. The texts assure us that the Master's protecting hand is always there, shielding us from being completely overwhelmed or buffeted by our karmas, as they say.
Okay. It ensures that even when the waves crash, the boat stays afloat.
Exactly. So we've sort of established the diagnosis. Fear comes from misplaced focus.
Right. On ourselves, on the temporary.
The cause, suffering, is the settling of past karmas.
The debt's coming due.
And the necessary mindset. Love and devotion provide the stability.
Okay, which brings us squarely to the practical core of the philosophy, the how-to. How do we actually maintain that focus? How do we access that constant grace and achieve fearlessness?
Right, the nuts and bolts. The texts state that the Master provides a shelter that protects us from the raging storm.
A shelter, like a safe harbor.
An internal one. It's physicalized internally through something called the knot of initiation, and it's maintained, utilized through the practice of meditation.
Okay, let's pause on knot of initiation. It sounds like specific terminology. What does that mean practically?
It is specific, yeah. The philosophy explains that initiation is the moment the Master gives the disciple a specific technique for meditation.
A method.
A precise method, yes. And crucially, initiation establishes a permanent internal connection. You can think of this knot as like the internal anchor point, the switch that guarantees a protective link back to the Master's consciousness, or that divine source.
Ah, okay, so it's like the spiritual equivalent of getting the GPS coordinates. It lets you lock your attention back onto the Father, even when everything outside is turbulent.
That's a good analogy. The act of the Master providing this knot, this connection point, is what activates the protection the texts guarantee.
Which makes sense of that powerful saying you mentioned earlier.
The will of God will never take you where the grace of God cannot protect you.
Right. The protection isn't just a hope, it's built in. A guaranteed consequence of having that connection established at initiation.
Yes. And meditation is the daily work. It's the practice that uses this internal connection.
It's how you pull your mind out of the wobbly leg state.
Out of fear, out of time, out of external noise.
And lock it back onto that permanent, stable point of grace inside.
And through diligent, consistent meditation, and they emphasize consistency, the focus begins to shift fundamentally. The mind, which was once hypnotized by the world,
Starts to wake up.
it starts to regain its own power, its sovereignty. The individual learns, slowly, to rise above the temporary circumstances that used to dictate their state.
And what's the ultimate outcome? What does this transformation lead to?
The texts promise that with the help of this focused meditation, one is eventually able to rise above these fears and slowly, systematically, shed them all.
Shed them, like taking off a heavy coat you didn't need.
Exactly. It's described as a process of spiritual attrition, maybe. As the inner focus strengthens, the fears just lose their grip. They lose their power.
Because there were only consequences of paying attention to the wrong things.
Yeah.
The physical, the temporary.
Precisely. Meditation fundamentally re-architects where your attention rests. And that leads eventually to a state where you become truly fearless.
And the final state they describe is pretty radical. It's being not frightened of anything, whatever may happen in this creation.
Anything. It means facing illness, loss, even death, without losing that core inner balance, that equilibrium.
Wow. That's quite a promise.
It's a massive journey, really. So, just to recap, we diagnosed the problem fear, stemming from attention fixed on the self and the temporary.
Got it. Misplaced focus.
We identified the root cause, the settling of historical karmic debts.
The universal accounting.
And we found the solution offered unwavering devotion as the mindset, and the practical tool of meditation, all made possible by the master's shelter, that interconnection.
Okay, so the application for you listening right now seems pretty immediate.
Mm-hmm.
Surviving turbulence, whether personal or global, isn't about somehow avoiding the storm.
No, the storms are part of the karma, part of the process.
It's about making sure your anchor is firmly set and that your attention is fixed where it needs to be. So the question is, right now, where is your attention fixed?
Are you looking down at your wobbly legs, lost in the worries and fear?
Or are you consciously trying to focus on that constant flowing grace, that point of stability the philosophy says is always available inside?
And this leads to a final thought, something to perhaps mull over after this deep dive.
Okay.
If this philosophy is right, and the Master's grace guarantees protection through whatever karmic payments you have to face, and if the ultimate reward for devotion and practice is pure fearlessness, even in the face of unavoidable suffering,
Yeah.
then what kind of practical, real-world freedom does a life lived entirely in the will of the Lord actually offer you today? If that freedom shows up not as, external comfort or an easy life,
But as an internal immunity, an immunity to the very concept of fear itself, what does that actually look like, feel like in daily life?